simply seems to be treating us really well. We've all had the pleasure of working for Disney. Charlie has directed many of us when he was working for Disney. And
before I was blacklisted.
Those were some of the most profoundly wonderful sessions ever. Because Charlie is Charlie, and that's why we love him.
Thank you. Well, what was the question?
How is Disneyland treating you?
Disneyland? I don't know. I haven't been there in 20 years. Oh, great! We love Disneyland. I shit out this phone, Charlie. Got it.
I used to sing at Disneyland, and then I parked my car in the guest parking lot, thought it was stolen, had the cops come out, and they fired me. So Disneyland is great for the 6 months that I was a kid of the kingdom. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, I was not supposed to park here. Well, I was 18, so I'm better now.
I remembered my story. I was the first voice of Tinkerbell on Peter Pan and the Pirates with Michael Bell and Jason Marsden. It wasn't a Disney show, but she's never talked before me. So this is what Tinkerbell sounds like. Kind of snippy, sassy. There, that's my story.
That's amazing. Okay, so a couple of things before we get started. This is for every single one of you on stage for sure, especially for you as well, sir. You know, so many of you, or all of you, I should say, did a wonderful, beautiful job. You know, bringing all these illustrious, wonderful characters to life. Let's just say that. You know, all the hard work that you guys put in to put a smile on so many of our faces growing up when we needed it most. And we couldn't be more thankful for all the sacrifices you guys made, you know, in the industry, etc. And we're very thankful. So seriously, thank you. Because you guys all are legends in our eyes. So seriously.
I don't know that we made the sacrifice. These guys watched us. They made the sacrifice.
Round of applause for you guys.
So continuing the sacrifice today. We thank you.
All right, so we're gonna kick it off right now with cow and chicken.
Let's get off. Let's get off with cow and chicken.
All right, so for cow and chicken, right? And I'm very curious, and I'm sure so many, even though a lot of us know very well about how it came to be, but we'd love to hear it from you, sir. When it came to the original pitch and how the concept of cow and chicken, what was it like before it came to fruition?
Well, it started actually as a bedtime story for my daughter when she was 6 years old. So I told her the story of cow and chicken one evening, one night, and she really liked it. So the next morning I put it out like children's book.
Sing out, Louise.
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Closer.
Closer. Yeah, so it was a bedtime story I told my daughter. I drew it out as a children's book. Within a few weeks, I had gotten a call from Hanna-Barbera, who was had just connected with Cartoon Network, the Brainer Network at the time, looking for new ideas. They had like, I think they were doing 52 pilots.
Yeah.
And so they called me because I've been working in the industry as an animator for about 15 years at that point, if I had any new ideas. So I had this brand new project, and surprised they lied. They said, yes, let's do a pilot. So that's how Cow and Chicken started as a pilot. It started as a bedtime story for my daughter.
And we're so glad it did, because Cow and Chicken today remains as one of the most iconic Cartoon Network shows of all time. So seriously, thank you so much.
Here, here.
All right, so on that note, Candi, you've been a part of so many legendary franchises throughout your illustrious career. You know, you've done such a beautiful job with bringing so many characters to life that, you know, we hold near and dear. So what was it like for you being part of such an iconic franchise like Cow and Chicken as well?
It was a lot of laughs. It was a lot of fun. It was, you know, because David is weird, in a best of ways, that all of those characters were like in your id. Like you could come, I mean, I don't know if you guys remember the teacher who was talking like this, but she was a woman who came out of my club act who was a 70-year-old kindergarten teacher who kept thinking every day was her last day of work So she came to the kindergarten class hammered. Her name was Juliet. And only on Count Chicken would someone go, exactly, that is the teacher. And then mom and dad, that we didn't have upper bodies. And I just thought that was genius.
We had all we needed.
What the, thank you, Papa. And then we just did this Donna Reed show on acid while we had a cow and a chicken for kids. And I have never, like I do a lot of stuff. It was like funny at the mention of Disney. It's like the one, I love Disneyland. I actually really did sing there and I really was fired there. And to work for Disney is not the same experience for me because it's very controlled and it's very buttoned down and there's a lot of opinions. And I just like coming and looking at David and him going, exactly. And I think that was like where Hanna-Barbera grew so that we could become Cartoon Network.
And you can't say words like Piles the Beaver at Disney.
The Warthog dog. What was the Warthog dog?
How does your dad make a living?
And that was it. So I think as long as you could let yourself go and look ugly behind the mic, I think that David is the perfect person to work for because there was never a no. There was never like, that's just too big, too much. So you felt like at home. That was it.
Round of applause, everybody.
Yay.
So, this is for Dee Bradley Baker. You're a legend in your own right as well.
I thought he was going to say
all
behind.
So, being part of Cow and Chicken, what was that experience like for you?
Well, working on Cow and Chicken, I don't think I have anything in my experience that had the kind of creative freedom and audacity that this show had. And for me, I was just starting out, and I was in a master class with Charlie Adler and Candi and Dan Castellaneta and all that came through that show. There was an insanity that was allowed and a hilarity that was encouraged like nothing that I've ever seen since. And I was very, very lucky to be on board and to learn from that and to be kind of unleashed in what I was learning and in my own confidence in that show. And I am forever grateful to David and to Chris Zimmerman, who's our voice director, and Charlie and Candi for that wonderful moment in time before they pulled the plug for whatever stupid reason they pulled the plug. Right when we had Happy Meals. We had Happy Meals, and that was the time to just 86 the whole thing. But what a glorious freedom there was, and what a trust in creativity and
I'll never forget Jolly Roger.
and Jolly Roger doing things that we were told not to do, but we did it anyway, and it's all David's fault. And
wait, what about, I'm sure Charlie will say it.
was
But what about the Buffalo Gals?
the Buffalo Gals, the forbidden Buffalo Gals. I mean, you just don't get a chance to step over the line like that anymore. And that was...
They were hanging on the motorcycles and started munching the carpet.
That's right.
And I thought it was...
You see how much fun it was to work with Charlie as a director.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Can I just say, I was not privileged to be a part of this show, however, I'm a fan. And what you guys are talking about with respect to David and the support for swinging for the fences. Billy West has said, and he's right, we all feel this way. The thing that's cool about voice actors is that they're fearless. And I mean, talk about, right, David?
Absolutely.
Talk about fearless, which is so great. Because when you have folks on board like this, who have that facility, who are absolutely fearless, and you have the guy who's running the show say, oh yeah, you see what happens? That it works, and it's so neat and wonderful to see you guys giving the credit where it's due, because it doesn't happen unless you have not only people who can do it, but people who are helping it, saying, what you got?
I want to add to that because there was a lot of network interference, which you may have figured out by about 30 30 seconds with me, I don't have much patience for it. And so David, who is heroic in how he pushed back, really pushed back in his calm, demented, single-minded way, fought for every inch of that show along the way, including letting me do all three of the leads. And that was unheard of, and the network was not having it. They didn't want it. They didn't want me doing all three. One only, one per customer. And that was it. And so David fought and said, no, this is who I want, this is how I want it. So that's not kidding around. That was Herculean, because you really fought off a bunch of jackasses.
So, Charlie, this is actually for you. You know, you're a legend in your own right, for sure. You know, throughout your wonderful career, for sure. You brought so many beautiful characters to life. So on that note, you did one heck of a job with Cow and Chicken, for sure, and Red. So when you think about, when you brought these characters to life with David's vision, working in sync with Candi, Dee Bradley Baker, when you think about Cow and Chicken and Red, what was it like with your mindset approaching both characters? And was there any obstacles or challenges when you were trying to bring out the best in them and their personalities?
I would love to say something very profound. The answer is no. No, we just went to work. We went to a party. David hosted this brilliant party with the singer and the director. Nobody gave a shit about it. I was like having a wonderful, wonderful time, and that's what we brought. I never considered it even like, James Lipton with the Actors Studio, blow my brains out. What? How did you? What did you? Who are you? Just show up. And so that's really what it was, and it was a great playground, and we supported each other, we fed off of each other, we fed off of David. I just want to show you guys what inspired a lot of the performance with Red, because I have to put this out. So I would look into the booth, and it was during the pilot, and David, being the brilliant psychotic artist that he is, was acting out.
Oh, hello, Johnny Bravo.
This is Jeff Bennett.
Jeff Bennett.
Give it up for Jeff Bennett, everyone.
In the middle of a party. So David, I would look into the booth and I would see this. This is what I see David doing. And I kind of sat back and I went, right, that's how far I came back. And that's how far I went. And he gave me license. He just gave us all license. And as Candi said earlier, about mom, dad, and teacher, there was a lot going on. It was pretty spectacular. It was a moment in time never to be repeated, I gotta say. Thank you.
Of course, thank you. It was a time of my life. Awesome.
Do you know that I
Howie
became a
Morris?
minister to Howard Morris? Howard, he was Fleming Earl, was Dan Castellaneta, and Howard.
And Tom
Morris,
Kenny? Tom Kenny is your friend?
And then Michael Dorn was opposite me, and I am.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you real quick that Michael Dorn, who was an angel on the earth, you know him as Worf. He's a musician, and he was a little formal for my taste. And he came into the studio, and I think it was the first episode, and we smelled each other's butts. He looked at me, I looked at him, and we just kind of started to work. And at one point during the session, I looked at him and I said, "Who the hell are you, Joan Fontaine?" And he looked at me and went, "Ugh," and it melted everything away. So to this day, and it was pretty close, he calls me Joan Fontaine. I call him Joan Fontaine, and he calls me Olivia Dad. You don't even know that I'm talking about little 12 years old. There were big movie stars in the 30s and 40s.
Round of applause, everyone.
Every session felt like you're going to show up, and there's a different stack of Roman candles that have been brought into the studio. And they're going to be each lit, and then you just stand back and watch and it's spectacular, and it's a surprise, and it's different depending on who they're bringing in and all. But it was really, it was such freedom and such fun.
Such freedom. So, really, Chris never stepped on us, not once. You know, not a lot today when we voice record do we do pages at a time, but with Chris Salter, but Zimmerman then, in the booth, she would just go till you F up. And we could sometimes do 5 and 6 pages that she couldn't turn because David never said a word. We just kept going. If somebody made us laugh, we'd put our hands over our mouth and we'd just keep going. I remember Dee and Charlie did this thing with Jolly Roger, and then there was a German guy. Dee did, Charlie was playing against the German.
The Jolly Roger was a character that was forbidden, and they said don't have Dee do this character ever again, and you proceeded to write him into every episode to give him a different name.
But this is how rebellious. This is how like
That is it. But do it.
It's like the adjectives I use can no longer be used to describe what Jolly Roger is. I can't say these words anymore.
Oh my God. It was the time of our lives.
And in the spirit of being so just, I don't know if you guys remember, one day we came in and there was asswipe. And I said, okay, David, this is not the flight, kid. Asswipe. And David said, sweep it. It's the sweep strike. And so we were all in the room chanting, sweep it, sweep it. Asswipe. And then they let us go everything.
It was the family. It really was a family thing because even the smallest characters, look at what, of course I remember Cow and Chicken and Red Dot, but I remember the jerk. I remember the pirate, on an butterfly. I remember they gave Teacher her own episode, The Ballad of Teacher, where she rapped like this song. Who played the guitar? I forget who played along, but it was the one tell you a little story about Teacher. And I thought, you're going to do 11 minutes of this. This is horrible. And yet, I cannot tear my eyes away. This was brilliant. And I will tell you, one of the things I will give everybody credit for, top of the order, down to the lowest of us, nobody left the room. Nobody was like, I'm going to the lobby while you do your thing. Everybody stayed in their seats. Everybody laughed. Everybody, because you knew it sucked if you couldn't get your co-stars to laugh, if you could get them to laugh. Because you couldn't look at David, because David was like doing gymnastics in the booth and laughing at everything. Chris is down on her page trying to figure out where we are because we're going so fast. But if my co-stars, if everybody's sitting in the room, my friends laughed, I was like my 5-year-old self getting on stage singing Swanee. I'm like, you can't get me off. And it was really, those days are gone.
Yeah, it was a top-down ensemble.
It was a top-down ensemble.
Whether you have 2 lines or 200 lines, everybody is a vital part of the final performance.
Absolutely.
Which was a joy to be a part of.
A round of applause, everyone. All right, perfect. So, my last question, seriously, round of applause for David, everybody.
Yeah!
Hey, David. You did wonders, and we thank you so much for what you did with Cow and Chicken. So seriously.
Let's give the man another job.
Yes,
Let's give the man another job.
Hey, by the way, did all your checks clear? No, because mine didn't.
Never.
I'm sorry, Dave. I don't mean to be a big turd in a punch bowl, but I didn't have any checks that cleared at Cartoon Network. None. Okay, well, Dave, if you could also.
Same as it ever was.
Great, thank you. Same as everything.
All right, so last question I have for the Cow and Chicken portion is, you guys have a lot of beautiful guest stars and majestic guest stars, if I say it, that came on, that lent their talents to the beautiful show. Mark Hamill being one of them, right? So on that note, if you could think of either your favorite lines or favorite moments, you guys shared some beautiful moments for sure, but like that one line or one moment that really sticks out from either from the show itself or in the booth, etc.? What is it?
Well, I have one, only because you brought Mark. We all adore him. It's just so wonderful to dance with. But every time I have worked with Mark as an actor, a fellow actor, or when I'm directing Mark, I always look at him while he's doing it. And if I'm next to him, I will stand over him and do this. Because he gets so involved and he takes time to go, are we doing a mini-series? Let's go! And he's so wonderful about it. He's and he loves us. He's an angel about that kind of play. So I don't have much more to add to that, except I sure have a look. Can I do one thing real quick? And then I'm going to go powder my donut. Dee, the studio that would powder my donut. Powder my donut. For those of you that, I used to record leading up against this padded wall appropriately. Because I'd go from character to character to character to character. And I would sometimes get a little tired. And all of a sudden I was on the script leaning and I saw my script going like this. And I thought, oh shit, I'm having a stroke. And I turned to Dee, who was sitting next to me, and said, Dee, the script lines are killing. What's happening? And he said, oh, it's the printer. That was relief.
I don't have a particular line, but I do, for me, to sit in the booth and like Howie Morris, I didn't know who he was, and I was this ignorant little hip back then, and to watch this little man come in, and this little weird ass wobbly character that comes out of him, and to watch him work that was itself its own education in something wonderful and awesome. It's just like how. I mean, to see the whole range of like the brilliant switching up that you would do, Charlie, it was such a delight and such an education for me to watch, and so extended. And then on the other end, to see little Howie there, just kind of bringing and wringing out this strange little character that he does. It was such a precious, wonderful education for me, just wonderful.
I think what I liked was the egalitarianism, like the equality that we came in. When Mark would come in, when we'd have guest stars come in, everybody just left Star Wars at the door. They all left it, and speaking of Howie Morris, he was on the Andy Griffith show as the guy that threw the bricks in. So imagine how elderly he was, and all he worried about was that he got his line in the clear, so he didn't have to do it again. So he was like, did he get it? And he'd be sitting here like twitching next to me. And I had worked with him as a director on a play that I had done with Charlie Brill and Mitzi McCall, and he directed it. And he was completely different because he was in his milieu. But when he got behind that mic, he didn't know. But we were all 100% equal. Everybody was just as stupid and just as loud.
Dom DeLuise came in.
Dom DeLuise came in.
Chris Marty and Ed McMahon. Who would think that Ed McMahon could be playful? He was ridiculous. It was wonderful.
The number of times that all of us have had the privilege of working with these folks whom we grew up listening to and watching, and you call your mom and dad and say, guess who I worked with today? Guess who I got paid $1,000 American to spend 4 hours with? Absolutely a remarkable
I had the
experience.
same experience with Rock Hudson and Steve, and I called my mother.
That's right. That's Charlie, who was actually working next door.
That's what it was.
Rob, do you remember I'm sorry, Jeff, you go ahead. Remember the time that we were working on Neutron and Mel Brooks came in and they said, nobody gets to ask him for an autograph, don't bring anything. And we were all just wide-eyed and drooling, and so we all showed up with our record albums and all of our movies for him to sign because they told us not to. We were like, no, And we spent 4 hours with the funniest man.
Phyllis Diller.
Oh my God.
Phyllis played my mother in Count Chicken.
Count Chicken. And
Oh, God.
all these people are folks whom we watch and admire as children on The Tonight Show and all these other wonderful things. Oh my God, to be able to go to work and walk in and you just step out and say, Phyllis Diller is here. Hi, honey, I'm Phyllis. So kind, so supportive. We're all like egalitarian. We're all in this together.
Phyllis and I stayed in touch until she died. I
And
knew
if you
her
were lucky
a little before, but
If you were lucky enough to work with Carol Channing, she would
Carol, my God.
she would take her shirt off in the middle of recording.
Right, because they make too much noise.
She would wear these
Like starched
heavy
shirts.
cotton nylon, combination. Oh, I remember Brad Garrett was there.
I have the picture of us like this.
Yeah.
And she just buttoned her shirt. It was making, she wore a popular shirt. It was making
She was starched.
Yeah, and
It was so noisy.
I'll just take this off and start removing your shirt. She'll take off the shirt.
She recorded in a bra and shoulder pad.
Except last time I saw her, she had no bra.
She looked like a bag of doorknobs.
And Brad Garrett was like, I can never unsee that. So anyway, we all had our celebrity stories, but that was. And then she'd go out and eat fish with brine out of an igloo.
just laughing. I remember doing that, and I remember looking at her and saying, "You are my hero. You are my hero." And she said, "Now am I making any noise?" No, now nobody's looking at their script. You're all dead.
Round of applause, everybody. And one big round of applause for the cast of Cow and Chicken. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, David.